This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, AVRs? This is Steven, your host with Phantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends, Ben and Josh, here with me, and we're talking about Secret Project number 5. We thought we were done after the 4 from the Year of Sanderson, but no, there is always another secret in this case. Number 5 to go along with the Words of Radiance leather-bound Kickstarter. Actually, not, it wasn't on Kickstarter, it was on Backer Kit, crowdfunding campaign, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, this book is called The Isles of the Emberdark, and it will be coming out 2025, like spring, summer-ish. And he's released 3 chapters, a prologue, and 2 like middle of the book chapters. And so we're gonna just like talk through what we think is going on here. There's a lot of Cosmere things. This is gonna be full spoilers. So if you're not up to date with Cosmere stuff, like you probably don't want this episode. So, that's what you're getting into here.
Yeah, also like full spoilers, like also like some people I've learned are sensitive to like theory spoilers that are like more in the Cosmere than like we currently are. You know what I mean? So like this might be taking place after Rhythm of War or whatever. So it's like, I don't know. I guess if that's important.
It's definitely taking place after
yeah.
Rhythm of War. Let's just let people know that, because like you said, anything we talk about is gonna be spoilers for whatever might be happening in the future of the Cosmere.
And we might use some words of Brandon or some theory that people like, kind of predominant theories that might be turn out to be true, and so could be spoilers for stuff that hasn't happened yet.
Yep. So you have been warned.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we have from this book so far? We actually, I feel like we kind of know a lot about it. So first of all, it's going to be an expansion upon Six of the Dusk, which is the novella that he wrote years ago and is part of that collection, the Arcanum Unbounded. And I read it a while back. I brushed up on it for this episode. It's a fairly simple story, but we go into the future of that story in Isles of the Emberdark. But he said he will be including either all of that story or like parts of it with some changes. And that will serve as kind of like a flashback sequence for Sixth, who is now it's like 8 years later from those events. I think are going to be the majority of the events of Isles.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. He said that like if you've already read Sixth, then you can just probably skip the flashback parts. He said he's going to try and like put something in the back of the book to alert you of the changes. But so if you think about that, like what that means for the percentage of the book that we know about, I mean, assuming it's like a 400-page book, how long was like Tress and stuff? I mean, they're not like super long. So
I think like 300 to 400 seems
yeah,
like,
so 300 to 400. I feel like Sixth was probably a 100-page book.
No, I don't think
You
it
don't
was
think
that
that
long.
long?
I think it's more
Maybe not.
like, I think it's like 30 to 50
That's it?
max.
Is it really?
I
I
think so.
mean, okay. Well, I guess I don't want to spoil Sixth because we don't have to for the sake of this podcast. But like, um, we
We
might
did say
definitely.
that we were going to
Yeah,
spoil
we can
everything in the
spoil
beginning.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it takes like like there's a few plot beats I can remember from it. Like, we have this guy that like sees images of himself and he is kind of forsaken of the elders, and then he goes and finds like the uh kind of bunch of AVRs, right? That's kind of the main plot.
Yeah, basically he's running around on the island, like the sacred island of the AVR, where the magical force that makes them AVR is perpetuated from. He meets up with Vathi, who is like the president of their society 8 years later. And she's like part of this trading company. And they realize that the ones above, who are Scadrians, are
Mm.
slowly kind of manipulating them to use their technology and make like a soft power takeover of their society.
Yeah. So sorry, to go back to the point I was going to make, 60 pages. I just looked it up while you were giving that eloquent explanation. And then I
Okay.
feel like we just got like 30 pages or something read. So we might already know like a quarter of this book almost, is the point I was going to make, like kind of going into it already.
Mm.
So that's pretty crazy.
The reading was like 50 minutes. How many pages can you read in 50 minutes? Yeah, maybe 30. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
30. I mean, maybe not
Yeah.
quite that, maybe only 25. But I mean, my point is that we know a substantial amount of this book going into it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hmm.
So, which I think is cool. But I think that it's also cool that like it almost builds the anticipation for me because I'm like, I really like Sixth as a character. He seems like typically Sanderson specializes in characters that like to talk. You know, you think about like all of our favorite characters, like I don't know, Adolin and Kelsier, like these, like they all kind of like to talk versus
Paladin.
Ka- Kaladin. No,
Kaladin, I don't
well,
know. I'm doing my reread. I feel like I remember Kaladin being much more like stoic than he actually is in the books.
Hmm.
well, you get to Rhythm of War. I think Kaladin's harder because he's a viewpoint character, so you hear him a lot more than he actually talks. But like, yeah, you hear Shallan describe him and he's like always broody or whatever. But yeah, I'm not saying every Sanderson character is, but a lot of Sanderson characters like to hear themselves speak.
Hmm.
But like Sixth is like the exact opposite. Like I think one of my favorite quotes from Sixth of the Dusk, or maybe it's from this book, from the from Secret Project 5, but he's like, words are like gold. The fewer of it is, fewer of them there are, the more valuable it is, or whatever. It's like a great quote. And so he kind of just
Hmm.
doesn't say
And
much.
Sanderson's gonna be the poorest person in the world if that's true.
No,
Yes,
the
it's Sanderson
he's
not
been
channeling himself as much with
Yeah.
Sixth.
both on his podcast style, which is similar to us, and on his writing style.
So also, so we have a dual narrative, Sixth, and a new character named Starling, who we'll talk about as well. And I do want to point out that there are like a lot of Easter eggs scattered throughout here. And Brandon has said that it's a contained story that you can read without understanding stuff, but it does seem like his stories are more and more like requiring a decent understanding of who all these people are. Otherwise, you're going to be like,
what's going on.
yeah, what is this? What is this? What is this?
And I think it's honestly less about understanding this current book because you probably will be able to. And I think it's more about having the Cosmere spoil for you. Like, why jump in on this book where you have like, you know, Scadrians,
Right.
Scadrians,
I think
fighting against
Scadrians.
Scadrians.
That's the term you were looking for.
Definitely not Scadrialans.
Okay,
Scadrial.
Scadrians fighting against Rosharans. Like that's, I
Uh,
feel like you're just like, you know, why jump in at this point if you don't have to?
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
So.
that's really true. I wish he would say something more along those lines because it is, yeah, you do get some of those issues. And I remember even reading Sixth of the Dust and being like, oh dang, that's a pretty big spoiler, knowing that like space travel is going to be possible in the Cosmere.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know if it was a spoiler for us because we've kind of always known his like plan for Mistborn.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
kind of worn that on his sleeve from the very
he,
Yeah.
beginning.
that's true. But I think it was around that time actually, because it came out in 2014. I think it was around that time when he was kind of hinting at like the Mistborn Era 3 plans, but maybe it was before that. I don't know.
Well, Era
Yeah.
3 is not is
Or
not
Era
gonna be
4, Era
space.
4, I
Yeah.
should say. Sorry,
Era
it used
4.
to
Yeah.
what used to be Era 3. Because I
Yeah,
remember,
yeah. Right.
Well, do you hear? I think it was on one of his recent. It was at this most recent con that he was at that said he was actually aiming for 16 books now. Did
For
you hear
Mistborn?
that? Yeah, because he said he was going to do now 5 eras, but then somebody smart pointed out that if he just did one additional book, he would be at 16, which is like the number in Mistborn.
And he put and then he did this whole like,
Oh,
Oh.
Secret project number 16, you say?
uh-huh.
Is this true? I did not hear this news. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I
So.
I don't remember that either. Is that
This was just at where he read he was just at a con this past weekend. where
Oh,
he
okay.
read from uh Knights of, or not Knights of, just Wind and
Wind and
Truth.
Truth. Yeah.
Yeah. He read like the first few chapters from that book. So
I
anyway,
tuned in. Yeah, I tuned in for the reading, but I didn't. I kind of skipped through the Q&A.
yeah. Somebody asked him during the Q&A what his future plans were for Mistborn, and like he kind of started from the beginning of his first inspiration to do a trilogy of trilogies, and how that's in classic Brandon Sanderson fashion is kind of ballooned out. And he said
Hmm,
he was going to just do 15 books, but now he might try and do 16 for the number.
really? Okay. I mean, that would be an additional era. Entire. Well, if we have 4 eras right now, era 2 is already 4 books, so that would be 13.
Look at,
If he gets to the 4, so you'd add, yeah, it would be another trilogy.
yeah.
Hmm,
I don't know.
okay. Hmm,
I don't know. Um,
interesting.
yeah, but okay, sorry. We're kind of going off far field here, as tends to happen with Sanderson stuff. But what did you guys think when you started reading this? I mean, it was like, oh, we're on Yolan, and you're like, whoa, we're on
Yep.
Yolan? Like,
The
what's going
dragon.
on?
Yep.
And then here's a dragon, and then yeah, I mean that's crazy. And then I had no idea who Frost was, but apparently other internet people do, and so I've been schooled on who Frost is. So this is crazy.
I did not know who Frost was either.
Okay, well, let's go through it from the beginning, I guess. So
So yeah,
maybe
we've barely got any dragons before, and honestly, what we've seen a dragon in Tress.
I think
Have
Tress was
we?
the biggest dragon.
Yeah, cultivation is a dragon, and we've seen a little bit, like a snippet of that going on.
Yeah,
But this may be like the most dragon book that he's ever written.
for sure. I mean, you're on. Yeah, the main character is a dragon, so it's gonna be the most
Hmm.
dragon bit. Um, and this is the first. I mean, I guess for people that aren't super like into Sanderson, Yolan is important because it's like the original planet that humans are on, as far as we're aware of.
I don't remember what. Yeah, I'm not sure. That may be correct. I don't know.
I mean, we know it's Hoyd's home planet, and
Right.
I think it's where the shattering occurred, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that much.
Okay. So if
So
it predates, like, I think it's like the OG planet. It might not be, but I think for all
that's the
intents and
vibe I
purposes.
get. I
Yeah.
mean, like to the extent that planets can be OG of each other, like this really seems like the planet where the origins of the Cosmere as we know it started off.
Yep. And so that's
If you're building a
important.
timeline, you start it here. Yeah.
Yeah. You start here. So that's important. And I guess we kind of assumed that this is also the planet that dragons are on. But it
Yeah,
also seems like there's dragons and people on this planet.
I don't know. It definitely does seem like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's my assumption thus far.
Okay.
And Frost is like one of the oldest characters in the whole Cosmere, and he's been around since the Shattering. He's buddies with Hoyd. He's the one that's receiving the letters in Stormlight Archive epigraphs, Josh.
Okay.
That's why people know who he is. And he seems to be a little more hands off in whatever him and Hoyd are doing together, but he's like part of the 17th Shard organization, but he also seems to be sticking around on Yolan and not nearly as meddling as Hoyd.
Hmm.
Yeah. So he seems like a pretty chill dude, to be honest, in this book at least. He
And
talks about
just
seeing the
getting the
best in people.
prayers and
He likes the
yeah,
prayers.
giving giving the advice, twirling
He
his
se-
beard. Yeah.
he seems like Lightsong, if Lightsong actually like took his job seriously. Almost. I don't know. That's kind of random, but yeah, he seems like he's pretty relaxed, kind of cool favorite uncle, kind of like a serious black mentality. But he, because we know that, sadly, we know that Starling, who is kind of young, a young dragonlet or whatever, like in the first prologue here. We know that her parents died somehow. They're not around anymore. And that some people view her albinism as a curse, which is interesting. Like that adds some layers of complexity to the fact that like dragons can be biased. That's I don't know. It's for sure humanizing dragons.
Yeah, and that's part of what Sanderson's dragons are, humanized, because
Yeah.
like many uh I was gonna say fictitious dragons. Of course, all dragons are unfortunately
like
fictitious.
like most of
Yeah.
the besides the real
Yeah.
dragons, most
Yeah.
fictitious
Yeah, right,
dragons.
right,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. Yeah, there's many flavors of dragons, and one of the flavors is they can transform into human and bestial forms. And so this is the type of dragon we have here. And once she reaches 30 years old, then she's gonna transform. And so we see all of that, and I think it's a good little intro into these fictitious dragons.
Yeah. Uh I yeah, I really like that whole I don't know. I obviously like the way Sanderson's doing dragons. It seems as cheesy as it could be. It seems like he's doing good with it. So
Steven, I was going to ask if what's her name? Starlink? Is that her name?
Starling.
Starling.
Starling. Um, it seems like a character you wouldn't like. Am I right or wrong with this assessment?
Because you think that I think she's annoying.
Yeah.
She's not like terrible. She doesn't
Okay.
have a I didn't get too much of a annoying sense of humor, but she does have that like
J-
Sanderson archetype of
like young, spunky characters, I
yeah.
think usually annoy you, and she seems to be like a young, spunky character. Um,
Yeah.
okay.
Steven
All
gets
right.
too
All right.
annoyed by too much optimism.
Okay. Well,
Um,
hopefully, yeah, they just need it beaten out of them. But hopefully, this won't be one of those. I was just reading it. I'm like, this seems like something Steven would not love. So I'm glad I was
I
not
I
entirely
mean,
correct with that.
I kind of liked where she was at 12 years later, or maybe many years later, actually not sure how many years later, but 12 years into her imprisonment on the
yeah.
ship, she seems to be, I mean, like generally, a good person, optimistic person, but not like obnoxiously
Okay.
so. Yeah.
Were either of you guys like totally thinking that this was going to be like an Encanto moment where she like doesn't get their transformation? I was
Oh
convinced that
yeah.
that's where this was going to.
I thought, yeah,
Dang,
I thought something
Encanto
was going to happen.
spoilers. I've
And
not seen it.
It happens in the first literally 3 minutes of the movie, so I think
it's
you'll
in the
be all
first
right.
Disney song. This
Yeah.
is
Mm.
this is
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so I don't know. Great prologue. We're kind of off to a strong start here. Uh and then we kind of head towards sixth, which it's such a contrast with these characters, like I I don't know, even like for me, even the visuals of the settings, right? Like I picture like Starling as walking through this glowing orbital, I don't know, almost just like really cool place. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but she's a dragon, so she's probably in someplace that's cool. And then with six, it's this much more like jungle, almost like oppressive, like musty feeling to me.
Mm.
So I feel like that contrast is pretty stark in these chapters. And that might be just because I've read Six of the Dust too, and kind of like that's the setting I feel like I was going for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're in this mystical setting with Starling, and now we're in this like steampunk, dirty,
Yeah,
smoggy setting here in Sisk in
it's
sixth.
six.
So I don't remember what their planet is called. Their civilization is referred to as the Eelkin.
Oh,
Eelkin. And yes, so to just kind of get into the story here. So basically they're having a meeting of the leaders and discussing what they're going to do about the ones above. This is a carryover from the content of Six of the Dusk. The ones above are now much more involved, and they have possibly triggered a pandemic that killed a bunch of the Aviars, or maybe they didn't kill them, but they at least like withheld medication in order to save them and just make the Ealkin civilization more dependent on them. So that's kind of happening, and now they're demanding uh, access to the birds or something about So both
These birds
both
seem to be very important.
yeah. Do we need to do background on AVRs and
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah?
I need background on AVRs. Stephen, our scholar, what's the deal with that? I mean, obviously they're invested
I
somehow,
mean,
right?
yeah, so high level. So they are magical birds that grow up on this island. It's called like Patchy's Eye, something like that. Anyway, so there's this special island. On this island, there are these worms that live in the ground and also in this fruit. And the birds on the island eat the worms from the fruit, and the worms possess the investiture, and they create a symbiotic bond with the birds, and then the birds can be bonded with humans in order to project their magical abilities. So the birds eating the worms give the birds magic, and then the birds joining with the humans give the humans magic. And I'm assuming the value and the draw of the AVRs for both the Scadrians and the Rosharan that shows up are that these birds don't need to be bonded to like special Ealkin people or whatever. They can just bond with anyone, which is why we've seen AVRs in like Murray's has one in Stormlight Archive. So we haven't seen too many in other places, but it seems like this is an easily transmutable form of investiture. And we know that's a big part of what's going on in the Cosmere in the future.
Is Cheery Cheery also an AVR? The
No, that's a Larkin.
Larkin. So that's different because that kind of feeds off of like Stormlight, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
investiture, but yeah.
Investiture. So what when I was reading about sixths, AVR, it shows them possible deaths, right? Which is reminiscent of ATM, right? And Mistborn kind of shows possible
Shows the future.
futures.
Yeah. Mhm.
Do we think are there theories about that or no?
It does seem like the powers are related. So Sock, his AVR, that power is unique to
Yeah. And kind
there's
of
no other
people are weirded
AVRs
out by
that
it.
that have that power. And in fact, that bird did not grow up on the island. He brought it to the island later, and it consumed the worm and then gained the power, which is different than typical. Typically, they grow up on the island. So a little bit different things going on there, which I don't think is really fully explained. His other bird that died, it references died during the plague, but is alive during the 8 years prior, is named Cockerly, Cockerly, little something like that. Yeah, butchered that one. Anyway, that one has a more common power, which is concealing thoughts, which seems very similar to like copper clouds. And
Mm-hmm.
that power is more important in this world because there are beasts, animals, right, that hunt based off of finding people's thoughts. They sense thoughts, and they're able to hunt you. So this is a valuable power in this world. So
And
yeah,
it,
to
yeah.
your point, like both seem similar to Mistborn powers.
Yeah, and so that might be again kind of why if we theorize that Scadrians and Rosharans are at war, that might be why both of them want these types of assets, right? Like that they can
Hmm.
breed
Yeah,
and use.
yeah,
So and
unique.
maybe the
Yeah,
birds have to be born on this planet, like in order to maintain the investiture or whatever. Or we know that
yeah.
they
It
have to
seems
eat
like
the worms.
most
Yeah.
commonly they do. They definitely have to eat of the fruit.
Yeah, partake of the fruit. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's why that's like this whole economy that's being set up that people are that both Scadrians and Rosharans are interested in. And we
Mhm.
also think that or at least I think that the place where all these the feedings are happening is the perpendicularity, right?
Yeah, right.
That the
Yeah.
Rosharan guy used to
Makes
come and
sense,
visit the
right?
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys think we know who this Rosharan is?
It seems like it's a windrunner, right? Like it's blue.
Do we
He
think
can
it's a Windrunner?
fly.
So it's either a Windrunner or a Skybreaker
Could be.
because he seemed very. He's like, do I have authority under the
Yeah, I'm
rules and
thinking more
laws of this
Skybreaker. Yeah.
land to kill
Okay.
you or whatever? Yeah. So I'm thinking
Could
Skybreaker.
be. It
But blue,
does
yeah.
say.
Or it could have or they could also have an honor blade, but they wouldn't.
Hmm,
They would also need the plate. And no, never mind, because it transformed into a gun.
Yeah.
yeah. It does say in the text something about what the glyph looks like. I think
Like a
like
bird
a
in flight.
like a bird, right? Which
Yeah.
I don't know what all the glyphs look like, but does that look more like a windrunner or a
I don't know.
skybreaker?
Oh, well, this is an easy one too. Uh,
Yeah.
Skybreaker.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think Windrunner could be a bird in flight.
Let's. Oh,
And it's really disappointing that if you Google windrunner, it doesn't take you to Sanderson. What's up with that? Takes
I
a bunch
think
of
I
other
think
things.
I think Windrunner looks more like a bird in, well, I don't know. Both of them look like they could be. They're glyphs, you know.
Yeah, glyphs are kind of interpreted different ways. Yeah.
They're for the males of Roshar.
I could,
Um,
I could see it either way.
it's either way, right?
But that is a good point about like the law
The
and all that.
behavior seemed
wait,
very Skybreaker.
a bird in flight, you said?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
that definitely seems like a bird in
Yeah,
flight.
but do you look at the Skybreaker or the Windrunner one?
that yeah, that's the skybreaker.
Yeah, let me see the one runner.
I mean, they both do. Also, I don't remember exactly what the text said. We are just going off of bird and flight. It
I'm pretty
could have
sure
been
it was
something
bird and
slightly
flight.
different.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Windrunner does look like bird in flight as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So who knows?
All right, let's go
Um,
Fantology guarantee. We're gonna say Skybreaker.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
okay. So nice. So I feel like that makes our way through the prologue and through the first chapter, right?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, I guess it sets up the conflict of they've got 3 months to deal with the ones above the Scadrians and the Shardbearer. I think he said he'll be back in a month to get their
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
So they've got a little bit of time here to
Do we have
come up
any
with
hope for
some
these
plan.
people? I mean, are they just gonna get trounced? Like,
Doesn't seem good,
you know, and it's so
but
weird, man. It's so weird because we've been cheering for both Rosharans and Scadrians, like
yeah,
Scadrians for so
it is.
long.
Yeah, right, for sure. It's definitely a perspective shift.
I
I
really
mean,
hope that it's set up so that you are torn on what you want to happen, though. That's what makes a story compelling,
mm,
you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, I feel like
yeah.
we already kind of have been, man, uh with um uh oh my gosh, why am I spacing on his name? Kelsier, like just kind of
That's being introduced, yeah. The
go.
fact
I
that,
mean, we're pretty far down the rabbit hole at this point with that, especially with Mistborn era
Also,
2.
the Scadrians that show up in Sunlit Man.
Yeah, they're just kind of observing. But you got the Ghost Bloods that are just
Yeah.
like pretty bad. I mean,
well, I don't know. The Ghost Bloods, we'll see if they're bad.
they're pretty brutal in terms of the methods that they're using to.
But it seems like there's different sects of Ghost Bloods, you know?
Yeah, but they all listen to Kelsier.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Kelsier seems like he's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit.
He was always off the deep end.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I
Killing
guess
nobles
at
left
one
and
point he
right.
was an underdog, so it's okay to be off the deep end when you're an underdog. Now
Mm.
he's a overdog.
Crime syndicate leader of like
Yeah, gosh.
intergalactic crime
So
family.
so
Yeah.
he's going on the Daenerys Targaryen
Yeah, for sure.
arc there. Yeah.
It was pretty funny though. I just finished my reread of Rhythm of War, and there's a part where um it's like right at the very end where Shallan makes the decision not to kill Kalek, and she like calls Mraize back, and she's like, I have to tell you, Hoyt said that don't make me come and slap around your master again, because I'll do it. So he's like referencing Secret
Yeah.
History where he just like
I
Mhm.
remember that from the first time.
Stop Kelsey. Yeah, pretty great.
Good
Gotta love
stuff.
Hoyd, man. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
assuming we'll get some Hoyd in this book because Hoyd was Starling's previous master. We learn from the next chapter.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. And I mean, there's a lot of other little Easter eggs in this chapter. The skinny of it is 12 years of bondage of sorts on this ship that is kind of mundane. For unclear reasons, she has these manacles. Starling has these manacles that bind her to human form and seem like they keep her on the ship until she quote unquote learns something. And I'm assuming, I mean, assumptions on the whole story. I'm assuming this ship will come in contact with the Eelkin in that at that island, the Pachi place where the shard pool is, and somehow, they will are two different but plucky heroes will work together to, play the
Yeah.
two, the two oppressive futuristic societies off each other and give the Eelkin hope for the future, something like that.
Yeah. I agree with that prediction. Um, One thing that is interesting is it refers to Emberdark. I mean, the title of the book is Emberdark, right? Or Isles of the Emberdark. And the
Yeah.
Emberdark is actually a location in Roshar's Shadesmar.
Oh,
We
really?
hear about it. Yeah, we hear about it in um when Shallan and Adolin are going to um
Mm,
lasting integrity, and they're like, oh, what happens if you just keep going or something, and somebody's like, oh, well, eventually you run into like Emberdark and nobody really knows
mm.
like what anyway.
I
It's
wonder if that's a specific location or if it's just kind of a general term used to
I think it
refer
was
to like
I
out
think
into nowhere.
it's the latter, I believe. At least in the reading that Sanderson did, he referred to Emberdark as being in between places, in between habited locations in Shadesmar.
See, I thought that was true. I would have gone with that interpretation. I looked it up on Coppermind, and it said Emberdark has a settlement in the Sea of Lost Lights in Shadesmar. Um,
I think
it is south of Nor Channel and is adjacent to Emberdark Channel. It is along the
Hmm.
Glasswater Deep.
Wonder if
In the
it's in
physical
that.
realm,
Is it
Emberdark
in that map?
is along the Deathbed River. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? But it is interesting that like there might be some crossover with Roshar too, if we're gonna go to Emberdark.
Hmm. I'm pulling up the little
Sorry.
map here. See, although the Shadesmar map is not detailed at all.
Is it not?
At least not this one. There's probably some other ones like the stylized one is not.
Man, Josh is like transcending life right now. He just put in a different earbud to listen to his phone.
Yeah. Okay. Let me play some words of Sanderson to get this on
Oh
record.
gosh.
Might not update Coppermind.
Ooh, update
Somewhere in
Coppermind.
the previous books. It's been around for a little while. I've been imagining this place.
Sorry. Let me go.
You can't do double speed, Josh.
I know.
Otherwise, when people are
Okay.
listening
I
to us on
was
double speed,
over
it'll
here
be
trying to like
4x
scrub
speed.
through 50 minutes of audio real time.
That's actually pretty
I can
impressive.
bring the
All right.
That is that
service.
is that is
Somewhere.
impressive.
Okay. All right. Let me go back.
So there we are. What is this book? Well, you might be able to find the word Emberdark used somewhere in the previous books. It's been around for a little while. I've been imagining this place between populated parts of Shadesmar as very interesting darkness to explore. And we are going to have a book that maybe looks at that a little bit. So it is a novelization.
So
All right.
maybe
Thanks for your guest appearance, Sanderson. We can let you go back to your busy schedule.
Yeah.
yeah, thanks. So maybe I don't know. I actually listening to that again. Maybe it is a specific place. To me, when I first listened to that, it made it seem I was under the impression that was more a general place between settlements, but maybe it was a specific place. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. But
Maybe it's
that's what
both.
yeah, maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. But interesting. I do like your prediction though, Stephen, of them winding up like teaming up with a unlikely buddy cop duo with Sixth um and with
Starling.
Starling. Yeah. That seems like again the perfect we talked about at the beginning with Starling being kind of like this, you know, kind of high energy talkative person and Sixth just
Mm.
being like this like
Yeah, it seems like
yeah,
there's potential here for some good character dynamic with both.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
The other like
Um
quick hitters. So Nas is present here. He's the map maker that we've like seen hints of. I think he mostly appeared in Secret History, right? And now he's dead. And there's like some kind of cognitive shadow hanging around Starling or part of the ship's crew. Interesting.
yeah, so and we at one point the story said in order to even like invite a shade on the ship would be like certain death. And so do we think that is referring to uh the one book with shades?
Shadows for Silence.
Shadows for Shadows, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's a shade like the shades from what is the name of their world? I always forget this. And then pull it out at the last minute. It's Threnody.
Buzzer beater.
This has
Okay.
definitely happened before where I pulled Threnody out of nowhere. Yeah, I don't think it's a Threnody shade because those ones are like bestial, manic
Yeah.
forces of destruction.
And we know it has to do something with the corruption of the shard that was there or whatever.
Yeah, right. He seems a bit more friendly, but some kind of
Yeah.
cognitive shadow.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that like shades have a reputation of being deadly. And
Oh yeah.
like in this in the chapters that we just read didn't say like something like in order to invite a shade on a ship would normally be like destruction or something.
Hmm.
Or am I just making that up? I don't know. I feel like
I
no,
don't
yeah,
remember,
yeah.
but maybe.
I think you're
Okay.
right.
So there's some connection.
So, yeah, and more than anything,
Yeah.
we have this like crew of misfits, right? We have the
Mhm.
who's the other person that like doesn't want to be there, like she signed up or they
Yeah,
signed
so
up.
there's a person called Aditil who is an aether bound from Datari, Daughtry. I think yeah, Daughtry, like the singer.
Like Chris,
That's
yeah,
yeah, that's
like the 2000s American Idol star Chris
yeah,
Daughtry.
exactly. That's my best pronunciation, which seems to be the name of the world that the ethers are from, which I don't know if that has even been revealed yet. Maybe, probably in Words of Brandon before. I did not know that. So that was interesting. This character has a broken ether. Ether?
Is it?
Ether.
It's
I think it's ether.
AETHER, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say ether.
So we know that that's kind of like the things that grow, right? Like they can kind of
Yeah,
grow to form.
we've seen
Yeah,
this mostly in the most recent Mistborn book, whatever that book
yeah,
was called. Mistborn Era 2, Book 4.
yeah, yeah, and we think that there's this some type of relationship, kind of like a Spren like relationship with them, right? Kind of like
Definitely seems like symbiotic relationship.
yeah.
And
So
Auditil talks about like trying to grow her broken ether. So yeah, there's something there. There's also it mentions that the whole ship is made out of a combination of Rosharan, Scadrian, and Dautrian tech. So that's fun. People have been. It's funny that for years people have been asking Sanderson these questions of like, what if we took a Mistborn and put him over here and spiked him and then took those powers and made a Nile bot, all this kind of stuff. And I've always like
yeah,
rolled my eyes at this and be like, dude, like none of this matters at all. But apparently those people
it
were
does.
right and I was wrong.
They were
Well,
very right. It's funny because Sanderson's like, like taking notes, like, yes, what do
Yeah.
you think would happen?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds like it could be good. Um,
Could be
yeah, but
true,
this
man.
It definitely sounds like this is kind of like the Millennium Falcon type ship, right? Like where it's
Yeah, good analogy. Yeah.
yeah, kind of held together by duct tape and
Mhm.
Stormlight.
I
I don't
thought
know.
the
I'm super excited about this book now, man. It's
yeah,
so fun.
it's definitely going to be one that requires some, reading into other to fully to get everything. You're going to have to get into Coppermind, refresh on things. So if you're
Subscribe to
listening,
Fantology.
yeah, subscribe to Fantology, right? Yeah, definitely do that. But know that if you're listening, that we are not experts, just fans. Do our best, but there's a lot of details here. So if you know better, like by all means, drop a comment for what we got wrong or join our Discord. There's a lot of conversation about this. We have a channel that's geared towards Winds and Truth, like Stormlight Archive, reread and everything, full Cosmere or whatever. Like hop on there. Let us know your
Yeah.
theories. There's lots of conversation over there. So we're excited for Winds and Truth later this year. Excited for this one next year. And it's good to see that even though there's going to be a bit of a break with Cosmere stuff in the next few years, like we still got a secret project next year.
Yeah, just a break. I mean,
Yeah.
I was gonna say what's the worst of the best, but I think my knowledge is the worst of the best of this episode, and Stephen filling it in for me because I am very excited about this book. I just like my knowledge of the Cosmere. I think it's great, and then it just fails me in my times of need. So,
There's a lot of
um,
details. I mean,
yeah,
the only reason I'm coming up with a lot of this is because I prepped the episode.
yeah.
I'm not
So
going to
it's
remember this stuff cold.
yeah, and that's what's
Except for
that's what's
Threnody. I will always remember
you will
Threnody.
always remember Threnody. But that's kind of what's crazy about this whole thing is even like we're pretty big fans and we like keep our finger on the pulse of all this stuff, and it's still hard for us to keep it straight. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of balls up in the air, we'll see if they can all continue to be juggled.
Yeah,
So
cool. Well, Ben, Josh, thanks for hopping on. Until next time, see you later.
yeah, see ya.
Yep.